Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're Masechtas Yevamot daf Yud Beis. We are going to begin on Yud Beis with Alpha, about 15 lines from the top. Amar Rab Lili Bar Mamel Amar Mor Ukva Amar Shmuel. He brings down the following case regarding a Tsaris Mamenes is Asura. So what is this case? So if you have a Baal who had two wives, one was a Gedola, the other was a Yesoma Katana, and this man died childless. Now, the brother normally would do Yibum. Now, Yibum would be done in this situation with the Gedola, because the Yesoma Katana was only Kedusha de Rabbanan. So, the truth is that the brother should do Yibum with the Gedola. Now, what happens if the brother is an Ereva with the Katana? So, in this situation, the tsara is, as we've saw in the beginning of this Masechta, is also pater from Yibum, because since the other wife is an erva to the brother, so too the tsara is mutter. We don't do Yibum or chalitza. But over here, we're talking about kedusha de Rabbanan. So because it's a katana, what we would do is the tsara is obligated to do chalitza. We wouldn't have her do Yibum, but the Gedola would have to do Chalitza. Now, what is this case? It's Miyun. Miyun is an allowance that the Katana, who's married, can walk out of the marriage and do Miyun, this refusal. Now, the question is, when did she do Miyun? If she actually walked out of the marriage before her husband died, and she walked out of this marriage, then she really, Umafreya, had no connection to this man, and therefore now that the Baal dies, so there's one wife, and the brother would actually do Yibum with the Tzara, because there was never an Ereva. However, in a situation where she would walk out of the marriage and do Miyun after he died, which is discussing how that takes place, so then the din would be different. So again, we're talking about tsaras mamenas. When this woman did miyun, the tsara is going to be aser. Now, Laman, who's that like? That we say this. Where do we find such a din? So ilema la'achim. Who's she aser to? To the brothers? To this brother? Hashta higufa sharia. She herself is mutter. The Amar Shmuel, we learn miyana bezeh muteres bezeh, that once she does miyun, she be mutter to another brother. So tsaras meboy, so certainly the co-wife should be mutter. It doesn't. It's hard to understand why she wouldn't be able to marry just some other brother. Ella lididei. It's talking about the man himself, who was the Ereva. Says Rashi, Yavam shimi ainabo. The Yavam that Miyun was done, Asura. The man akar lazika, because the Miyun removed the whole connection. V'koyle eshes ach, and therefore it's like this is your brother's wife. So ma'ishna mamenis the sharil achin. So why do we say when she does Miyun that the tsar is mutter to the brothers, dul avdabuhu ma'isa, because there was no action, so tsar nami dul avdabuhu ma'isa. So gezer misham tsaras bito. So we said the issue is gezeres tsaras bito. As we know, when it comes to tsaras bito, the tsar, because of the ereva to the daughter, so the tsar is also aser. So mamenes tsaras bito, mamenes miasira. So the question is, why would we say that that's aser? But tanan v'kulam imeso, we saw in their Mishnah that if they died, mi'ayno, again this is referring to the ereva, or miyun was done, surse mutaros. It says that the tsar is mutter. So how can we say that the tsar is aser? So again, the Gemara asks, demi'aynam baman, ilam demi'aynam babal. Doesn't mean that she walked away from her previous marriage. Hainu Garusha. So it's like she's completely disconnected from him. Ella b'yavam. it means that she did mian with the Yavam. So what do we see from here? We see l'chayra that when she does mian with the Yavam, not with her husband, but again, the mian was done, let's say, with a husband, with the Yavam. And the question is, what the din is. So our Mishnah l'chayra says that the tsar is mutter. So how could we say over here that tsaras mamenes is asura in a situation where, again, she did mian with the Yavam? L'chayra, our Mishnah says beferish that once that takes place, then the tsara is mutter. So lo olam babal, really she'd mean on her husband. Trade gabdi gerushin. It's just saying that they're two different types of gerushin. In other words, that they're separated from one another. That's it. Umayshna kimi aina babal. How come when she does mian from her original husband, diakrinhu and asuin, that it completely removes it? So kimi aina biyavam nami. Why don't we say the same thing? And therefore, because of that, if she did mian with her husband, and then he subsequently died, so the ach could marry the tsara. So kimi aina biyavam nami nesun kamoi ka'akra. So the question is, so when she did miyam with the yavam, it's the same thing. She's removing the original marriage. Instead of doing miyan on her husband, okay, her husband died, but now she's doing miyan on the yavam. L'char should be the same thing. If you do miyan with your husband, muteris l'aviv, then she's mutter to the father. B'yavam asura l'aviv. However, if it was done to the yavam, then she the tsar is going to be asur. Alma mishas nefila nearest kikalaso hachna mishas nefila nearest kitsaras bito. So we see that this is the distinction, that when we're dealing with a case where she did mian with the Baal, then it's okay. However, if she did mian with the Yavam, that already has the appearance of Ketzeres Bito, and therefore for that reason, we will go strict. And we'll say that in that case, he's not mutter to the Tzara. Okay, let's see a question over here. Matam demandir mitzaras mamenes asura. Why would we say that the Tzara of the katana is usher, even though mian was done? So he said over here, this is question 9, Gezeira d'Rabbanan, because technically they're separated. But it's a Gezeira d'Rabbanan hoyavu mi'ayna marishon, and since she didn't do mian with her first husband of the Baal, umikoyach nesuin nafla his yavim nearest ke'eshes. And what happened was, now that she is zokuk, so it looks like that it's your brother's wife. Gazu ba atut tsaras bitu mamenas. We made that same thing when it comes to the tsara of your daughter. The din is that again the tsara is aser. So to over here, the tsara is going to be aser when it comes to tsaras islandus, tsaras mamenas. Okay. Weiter. So now we talked about tsaras mamenas. Now we're going to talk about a different case. Amravasi tsaras islandus asura. The tsara of an islandess is aser. So if you're married to a woman and she's not able to have kids, she's an islandess, which we'll see if it's a mekach tos or not. We're going to see that soon. So once she's an islandess, so therefore the brother dies, the man dies, so the brother doesn't have to marry the islandess, and since she doesn't marry the islandess, he's also usher to the tsara, which l'chara means that there was a marriage, because if there was no marriage, then this islandess doesn't exist in the relationship, and he should be able to marry the tsara. It excludes the islandess who can't have kids. So Mesav Rav Sheshes shloisha achin nesuin, shloisha nashim nachariyos. Let's say you have 3 brothers, and they married 3 women who are not related. Umeis echem, and one of the 3 brothers dies. Therefore, there's 2 more brothers in the picture. Yosem Sheni Maimer, Umeis. Now, One of the brothers does mimer, which is a kedushin d'Rabbanan, and then that second brother dies. So now you have only one brother left. So mimer is similar to kedushin, but instead of doing yibum, he did mimer as a form of connection. So hari elu choltzos v'lo misyavamois. We say that this lone brother now does chalitza on this woman and doesn't do yibum. Shenamar umeis achad mehem. So, and one of the brothers died. So Yevamot yavo ileha. So therefore, the din is you have relations, you have bia, and that's how she becomes your wife. Misha leha zikas yavam echad. Only someone who has a zikas yavam echad. V'lo zikas shnei yavamim. Not in this case where there's a zika of two yavamim. Now the katani law. So therefore, again, in this situation, again where there's three brothers, one died, and the second one did mimer and then died. So the third brother does chalitza. The katani law omer Rab Yosef zuhit saras eishes ach mi'av. This is a case of Sarah of eishes ach. This is your brother's wife. She iser nefila garamla. That the iser it took upon itself at the time that she fell to him for yibum. Shalom etzina b'chol tarakula kagoyin zos. We only find it in this case. Zuhi l'muti mai, la l'muti tzaras ayilnus. The Sharia l'chayra must be telling you that only in that situation will she be. You do chalitza, but she's usher for yibum. Mashma when it comes to tzaras ayilnus is mutter, which is a kasha because we said that tzaras ayilnus is usher. So, lo l'muti tzaras ayilnus the asira. No, it's actually telling you tzaras ayilnus is usher. So my Zuhi di Isser Nefila Garmla Sarasa boy Chalitza. Ionis, when it comes to an Ionis, Nefil Chalitza little boy. You don't need to do anything when it comes to our case of an Ionis. My taima Hadaraisa Hadarabanan. One is Deraisa, one is Derabanan. Says Rashi. Hadaraisa Tele Dilmutate Saras Ionis. Midaraisa it says that she's not your wife. The asira, the afil chalitza boy, that you don't need to do anything. Hadarabanan can mafarish taima. We'll see later on. Dalad achin in the parak Dalad achin ka'asli al hashlishi. Okay, it's midarabanan the asa the third one because of the kedushi mimer, which we'll discuss more when we get to that part of the Masechta. So again, we're sticking to our ground that saras ailinus is in fact aser because it's a din deraisa, as we said, because it's davka v'haya b'char asher teiled pra'layilnus. So in this thing, one asks a different question. Tanan, v'kulum, our Mishnah said, im mesu u'miyaynu u'nizgarshu o'shenim sa'ayilnus. So we had the same question we had before about miyun. How can we say saras mamenis is aser? L'chayr, we're going to see over here it's mutter. So we ended up saying it's al tzegzera. So over here he says like this: Shenim sa'ayilnus sarasei mutaros. We see beferish that the tsar is mutter, not aser. So Lukasha kan shehikr ba kan shel hikr ba, says Rashi. So Rav Asi is talking about kishehikr ba kishenasa. You knew 100% before you married her that she was an ayilnus. Therefore, it's not a mekachtos. Says Rashi, Mein kan mekachtos b'harihi ishto. This woman who's an ayilnus is your full-fledged wife because you walked into that marriage with your eyes wide open. The sarasa havi saras ayilnus, and therefore that is a case of tsaras ayilnus in which she will be usher to do yibum with. Brachmana patra me'asher teled. So you're not allowed to do yibum with her because she is a tsaras ayilnus. Umas nisin, that says that once miyun is done, when she's an ayilnus, then you can actually marry the tsara, is talking about kishol hikerba, kishinasa. When you married her, you had no idea that she was an ayilnus. And therefore it was a mekachtos. V'lav ishto, he says Rashi, she wasn't your wife. This woman who's an ayilnus was not your wife because it was a marriage under false pretenses. Therefore, obviously, if the Baal dies, So there's no din isleness in this case because it's not tsaras isleness because there's no isleness. The love tsaras isleness. So it's a beautiful shot. And not only that, listen to the language of the Mishnah. It says the Gemara, it says it turned out to be that way. You found out that she was an isleness. Why does it say shenimsu? It means it was a mekatos, and therefore she was really not your wife. And therefore it's not a case of tsaras isleness, and that's the reason why you're allowed to marry the tsara. Okay, question. Okay, let's see a couple more lines. Omer Rabbi, as we continue in Beis with Beis. Rabbi says the hilchos of the law is when it comes to tsaras islandness, takas muteris, right? The din is that tsaras islandness is muteris. B'afil hikerba, even in a situation where you knew that she was an islandness when you married her, so it was not a mekachtos. She's your wife, so it's 100% is a case of tsaras islandness. So l'chayra, you would say that she's usher. So just like the islandess is usher, so too the islandess is nothing. It's not a yibum because it's only if she's able to have children. So therefore the tsar is also. And he says no. The din is that she's actually mutter. If you feel tsaras bito islandess, even if we were talking about tsaras bito islandess, the same din would apply. When our Mishnah says shenimsu, that it turns out that she was an islandess, tani shahayu. It means that really you should read that she was, right? In other words, that you knew about it, right? It's talking about in the case of kish hikerba. That's what our Mishnah is talking about. Even in this situation where you knew about it, even in that situation where she is your wife, still the tsar is going to be mutter. So look at question 10. Tsaras islandness madina moyavam. So if it's lo hikerba, so if you had no idea, which means therefore she's definitely was not your wife, it was a mekachtos. So therefore the din is that the tsar is mutter. However, it's hikerba. If let's say you did recognize she was an islandess, which means she is your wife, so you would l'chayra think tsaras islandess is aser, but that, as we just established, is in fact a machlokas. That there is opinions that say even in a case where she was your wife, and therefore when the Baal dies, so it's tsaras islandess, doesn't make any difference. Even though there's no din, you're not going to marry the islandess, but there's the tsar is still mutter. Okay. Kiyasa Rabbi Omer Rav Yochanan achas tsaras mamenes v'achas tsaras islandness. When it comes to the case we already said about the katana who does miyun, whether or not the tsara is mutter to the brother, achas tsaras islandness. If you have a wife who's an islandness and the man dies, whether the brother can marry the tsara. The achas tsaras machzik rishaso. So we saw more in yesterday's daf that if a person got married, divorced, and then you're allowed to remarry her, but let's say in the interim she married someone else, which was usher, not usher in that situation, but then it's usher for you to remarry her, but he did anyway, and then he died. So then what the din is in that situation? Kulon mutaros. The din is all of these situations, the tsara is mutar. So that is the chiddush. Tani Rabbi Kamedu Rab Nachman. Shalosh nashim meshamashos b'moich. There are 3 women that will use this type of cloth. What's the purpose of it? So Rashi says, Mutaris lases moich b'makom tashmish, that they put this garment in the place where they have relations. Kashein mamashais kadei shaloyis abru. It was some form of birth control to be able to get them not to become pregnant. So who are allowed to do this? A katana, a young girl, mubaris, a pregnant woman, a manika, a nursing woman. So those women were allowed to do this form of birth control, if you will. Obviously, it doesn't refer to birth control that is bismanenu. Obviously, for that, you would have to ask your rabbi exactly what the din is. Katana, so why do we allow a katana? Because shematis aber with shematomos. It's shaykh that a katana actually can get pregnant, and because she's a katana, she may die, and therefore it's a way of prevention. Mubaras, shematasa ubra sandal. So maybe the Vlad will end up becoming a sandal if she's pregnant. So there's an issue that something can happen to the child. Fine. And Manika, if she's nursing, Shema Tigmoil B'na V'yomos. Maybe she'll like wean her child and die. Basically, because she is pregnant again. So if that's what would happen, it would be difficult for her to be nursing, and she may end up weaning him earlier than his time, and then this child will end up dying. So we have to be very careful, and therefore we allow these things. Now, Ve'ezehi Katana, so this is actually question 11, Ve'eze Gil Katana Memameshes B'moich Rameir, Ve'im Hamis Aberes Beperg Zman Zeh, Vade Mesa o Shema Mesa. Will she definitely die or possibly die? So the answer to 11 is this. Ve'eze Katana, so Mebas Yudal Shana V'yoim Echad Ad Yud Beis Shana V'yom Echad. From the time a girl is 11 until her bat mitzvah. That's what a katana is. Pachlis Mikan, a girl who's under 11, V'yasar Al Kain, or any girl who's over 12, Memeshes Kedarka. She has tashmish in a regular way. Okay, that's in other words, Rashi says blo moich, that we don't use this moich after 12 or before 11. According to the Chachamim, he says no. Even a woman between 11 and 12 years old should also not use a moich. Fine. Umina Shemayim Yirachmu. He says the truth is, let Hashem have mercy to make sure that these people are saved. Hashem protects the people that sometimes don't even realize it. Hashem does all these great things for us. So Shema Tisaber Shema Tamus. It says that maybe she will get pregnant and possibly die. We can infer Deika Katana de Misabra. It's possible that there are some katana who could get pregnant and not die, right? It's possible they may not die. It's a chance. So im kain matzinu chamoiso mamenes. We actually find the case of a mother-in-law that should be able to do miyun, which means that she's a katana, which means you're a katana, and yet it's possible you can give birth at a young age and not die, and therefore you're still a katana. But we said, no, don't use the case of a mother-in-law. Don't say this case. Right? She did eat, that she was an islandess, or she did mian. So the question. So that's the question. We do see a case of chamaso. It is shaykh for a katana to be a mother-in-law. So why do we say that? So that about doing miyun, it's possible she's still a katana. It means that maybe she'll get pregnant and then vadai she will die. The Omerava bar livoi gvul yeshua koidem azman hazeh. There is this boundary, this time limit before enu misaberes koleker, that she's not going to get pregnant at all. Taychazman is that during this time, 11 and 12, he mesa bu'ubra. He mesa, she'll die. Bu'ubra mace, and also the child will die. La'achar zman hazeh, after 12, he chayev bu'ubra chay. So they will both live. So according to this, let's answer question 11. According to Rameir, between 11 and 12, and if he says ve'im tis aber shema tomos. Okay. So, I guess we didn't see that yet. Aini v'hatani Rabbi Bar Shmuel yati yachal loimer b'chamoiso v'im chamaso v'im chamav shenimsa aylonaso shiyamanu shikavar yoldu. To say that she already gave birth to a child. Eli oilam, and this is the maskana. Oilam shema tisaber. It's true. There is a possibility she may give birth v'shema tomus, and maybe she will die, but it's not for sure. It is possible that could happen. So Rav Safra, banim harihim kisimanim. So we say that having children is like a sign that she is no longer a katana. Says Rashi, harihim kisimanim hilkach enocha yoledes mamenes efil hi katana. Once she's a katana, even though it is shaykh that could happen, so how can our Mishnah say, oh, this never happens? If she's a katana, she could have kids. So why can't she do mian? The answer is that we no longer allow mian to take place once a katana, even if you're a katana that gives birth. Because once you've given birth, that's already considered like signs of maturity, and therefore, even if you're not the age of bat mitzvah, you're not 12, nonetheless, we still say halachically, you're no longer a katana, and therefore you can no longer do mian. Say children are actually a greater sign than simanim. So what's the difference? So my nafkamina, tefil Rabbi Yehuda di'amer ad shiar b'hashachar b'banim moide. So even though he says that you actually have to wait until an older time, says Rashi in the Koni Masechtas Nida that av mishehevia shte sairos, that even if she brings two hairs of maturity, nonetheless mamenes, she could still do mian ad shiyarba hashachor until she has a majority of dark hair in by her makam erba. She was shom saros harbe, which means she has a lot of hairs. But if she has children, that's it. Then he will certainly agree. So banim adiva misamanim, according to that shita, that you would not necessarily even need to have rov hair. That would be enough. Just having a child would be enough of a siman that you are gadol, and therefore you no longer can do mian. Yud Gimel with Aleph. Rav Zvid Omer ein banim b'loy simanim. There's no such thing as having children without simanim, which means again the fact even if you're a katana, that is a chazaka that certainly you must have signs of physical maturity. I have a nivdaik. So why don't we just examine her? What's the whole problem here? Chashin and Shem and Nashru. It's possible that those hairs fell out. So even though they fell out, and so if they fell out, you say, oh, maybe she's not, in fact, she's still a katana, and therefore she could still do mian. No, once she has a child, that's it. We don't need to even do a bedika. That could possibly happen, which is a machlokas in Perik Yotzi Doifin and Masechtas Nida. Almandir ein chayshishin ma'ikam emar. So just do the bedika. A filmandir ein chayshishin mishum tsar leida chayshinan. So the truth is, you're right. Normally we're not chayish. However, because of tsar leida, because of the pain of birth, it is possible, even according to him, that there is a possibility that some of the simane gadlos fell out, that her hairs fell out through the process of leida and the pain of childbirth. So therefore, we're not going to do a bedika, but just as long as we know that this woman had a child, is enough of a reason for us to know that it's no longer possible for her to do mian. And therefore, our Mishnah really can be talking about a situation where she's a katana, and she could do mian. You would think, oh, she can't do mian. Well, she's a katana, she gave birth. Again, it's because she's already considered halachically a gedola, but it is possible. Doesn't mean for sure, but Shema told that maybe she would die. Fine. So that's why Lamaskana, that's how we say it, that in fact that's the din, that there's a possibility that she'll die, and therefore we don't want to take any chances and jeopardize her health. Question TA27. Maha nafkamina im banim kisimanim or difim simanim. What is the difference between the two? The reality is that if you have simanim, or you have children, so that's a siman, and that siman should be enough to be able to again say that she no longer does miyah. So this, as we said, even according to Rabbi Yehuda, a woman could do miyun even up until shiarba hashachar. However, if she has im banim adife, if banim are better than enum amenas, then no longer can she do miyun. However, if you hold that banim harihim kisimanim, so then maybe again you have to wait until you actually see more hairs in order to be able to say that she is a gedola, and therefore she cannot do miyun. TB 27. How do we see that a case that you cannot have a mother-in-law to do mian? Because after all, didn't we just say you could actually have a child as a katana? So why can't she do mian? So the Gemara answers, Mishum shabanim harim kisimanim. or the ein banim bo simanim, the chayshin and shem nisharu. So you said there's the possibility. First of all, even if it's true, maybe she does have, she could have a child, even as a katana. It is shaykh that could happen. However, we say that banim harhim kisimanim, and therefore because of that, we say that she can no longer do mian. And as we also said, well, maybe, so what? Maybe you could do a bedika with the chayish of shema nisharu. We're nervous that maybe the hairs will have fallen out, or because of the tsar leda, and therefore because of that, we say it's not necessary to do it. All we have to do is look and see if she had a child. And in fact, the fact she had a child, no longer does mian take place. Ad kan.